right, welcome everyone. As you filter in, I'm just going to go through some of our usual welcome notices and house rules. Hopefully, if you're seeing this screen, then you know you're in the right place to have a conversation today with Dr. Alice Chu as part of our EDGE seminar series. As you come in and throughout the session, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, maybe add your LinkedIn or something about you and your interests and where you're based. But please make sure that you select everyone in the chat so that your messages are seen by everyone and not just by us panelists and hosts. We found from some people that the ongoing chat can be distracting. So if that's the case, just close it for now and maybe revisit it later or copy and save the chat so that you can connect with people at the end of the session. But if it's not distracting to you, then we definitely keep the conversation going there as well. And then finally, if you have any questions during today's session, please make sure that you put them in the Q&A box and not into the chat directly. This just helps us to keep track of those questions as they're coming in, since the chat can have lots of LinkedIns and connections and an ongoing conversation. So just make sure that you're adding those to the Q&A box, and we'll send reminders as well. Before we get started with Dr. Alice, we wanted to just do a couple of reminders of what you can do to join this EDGE community. So for example, we have this regular seminar series like the ones that you're attending today, featuring women leaders in global health who have taken different career paths and leadership journeys. Alice said to me earlier, she was interested in seeing some of the videos of what others have done. And just a reminder that we do have a YouTube channel where we post all of the videos from this series that you can catch up there. And I'll ask Catherine to post that channel here in the chat as well for those of you who are interested in maybe revisiting some of our other speakers. We also have our virtual network on Slack, which I think now we've got almost 1,000 members, and we're growing each day and each session. This is a great way to connect and keep conversations going, and it's a fantastic networking tool. So if you're not already a part of our Slack network, please do join us. And then finally, we have coming up this Winter Institute. There's a course being offered called Essential Skills for Women's Leadership in Global Health. This is a virtual synchronous course that you can take for credit or not for credit, and it runs January 9th through the 13th. So if you have any interest in this or any questions, you can reach out to me directly in the chat and I'll try to provide some information. And the material from this course was really developed based on the initial set of seminars that we ran here, thinking about the different types of skills that women leaders might want to have, grow, and practice within this space. So this is just a little bit about what we've got going on, and we'll keep you all updated, particularly if you are able to join the Slack network. So with that, let's get to the meat of why we are here today, which is to talk with Dr. Alice Chu. Alice, I'm going to give a really brief introduction, but I like to keep it very brief because you're about to talk about your leadership journey. So it's better to hear this all from you than from me. But just to say that Dr. Alice Chu is the Director of Market Access and Medical Marketing Asia Pacific for Glaukos Corporation, where she focuses on improving patient access to the company's innovations and novel therapies based on clinical and economic evidence, and also advancing clinical evidence in the Asia Pacific region. She's been involved in health policy and market access efforts, medical communication, and professional education. She received her MPH from the University of Berkeley and holds an MBA from Singapore Management University. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, turn off my video, and turn it over to Dr. Chu to talk to us today about her leadership journey.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone, so that you can see my face. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. I have a few slides to help guide me to talk to you about my journey. And I like to thank Anna for letting me sharing this with you. I had to think about 20 years of my life. And, a lot has happened. We think about 20 years from when I was, in my late 20s until I'm close to 50 now. So what I wanted to do was just share some of the insights that through this self-reflection, I'm glad I did this. Through this self-reflection, what I found to be important, at least through my career journey, and also in my personal life as well. And I hope that you at least could take, maybe it's something you already know, or you could take some snippets of it and apply it to your life. So, and why did I say erratic in the title? This is my journey since I got my PhD back in 2002. And you can see that the orange squares represent the places that I've lived. So after Berkeley, oh, I'm originally from Los Angeles and got my undergrad in San Diego and my PhD at Berkeley. So, totally Californian. And so after I got my PhD, I moved to New Jersey, New York City for my first job in medical communications. And I also got engaged and married over there. And then I had a kid, moved back to Los Angeles because I needed parental support. And then I moved to Singapore. And so those are what those colors represent. And then you could see on there, I put like first job, second job, third job, fourth job, fifth job, sixth. So unlike I think some people, I've had quite a few jobs in my career. And you know what, most people might say, oh, it looks like she's been moving around, right? Like job hopping, but that's not true. There's a lot of story behind it. And, I could share it with you. But what I wanted to do was really share about the leadership, not leadership, but some of the things that I felt were important to make me grow through my life and through my career. So I thought I would start with during the younger days, what I learned during my life in New Jersey and New York City. All right, so in my first job, I would say that I'm going to say out here, I think I was a bitch. and it's right after doing a postdoc. And when I reflect back, I wouldn't hire myself if someone was like that. And the reason why was because I got upset because I was supposed to be sent to, through the work back to California. And I was really excited, right, to come home, but that didn't come through. And for some reason, I just was really rude to the company and had an attitude, and it came through, right? When we had meetings, I was just like rolling my eyes and like that. And when I think about that, like, why did I do that? So the first thing is to control your emotions. And if you think about leadership, right? Leadership, I think, having a positive attitude, right? Being excited and motivating your team is a good thing. Once you get like if you're in a bad mood, right, or you get really stressed, I think that would be a downer. And so that's why through life, you got to learn how to control your emotions, and it's really hard. And I'm not talking about just work. I'm talking about personal life, especially when you have a kid. I have a teenager right now, and this is the one thing that's been really testing me. But it's through this test where I can learn to control myself. The other thing is when it comes to advocacy, you advocate at work, right? Then I would say, bring your emotions out, but these are firm emotions. You advocate on behalf of people, right? You advocate on something that you need or that you believe in at work. So in that case, I would have, a firm type of, like my voice gets a little bit more louder, but it's not like I'm being emotional or anything. Right? So that's the one thing that I learned, especially right out of postdoc. Control your emotions. The second thing, so after that stint in medical communications, which was only 6 months, I moved into a postdoc again, got married. And then I worked for a company called Gerson Lehrman Group in New York City. And I'll tell you this thing, I think my colleague and I did not have a good time with our boss. So we actually, in a way, pushed our boss out. So when I say form allies at work, it means that, become friends with your immediate colleagues, become friends with the heads or people in other divisions, because you never know where you want to go, right? You want to find people who would be supportive of you. But what happened was during the time in New York was that, when you're in fear all the time that you're doing something wrong and you're not doing something wrong, that that's not right, right? So interestingly, when we approached our boss, the boss actually said, "Oh, well, we were just giving her a chance." So that. So all of those emotions were just to provide someone a chance, but in the end, at least things were resolved, right? So when I say form allies at work, it's in some cases you want to get your opinions and your projects through, right? So that's why you need to work with people to help advocate this through. And so this has been extremely helpful for me in the immediate teams, and also to help advocate throughout the company in some of the projects that you want to pursue. The third thing is to experience other cities. So as I mentioned, I grew up in Los Angeles, and that New York City is it's a fun place. It's a great place to learn because it's, fast paced. It's a financial center. So if you have the opportunity, please move to another city and experience. And in fact, when I say city, it could be a country as well. I did not want to move out of Singapore, but I had to because of my ex-husband. But I'm glad I did it, because you get to experience different cultures, different religions, different ethnicities, and it just makes you, I think, a more well-rounded person. Okay, so this is my early life in New Jersey and New York City. Okay, the second half of my life, where a lot of the growth happened, was in Singapore. Okay, I moved to Singapore during 2008 or 2010 when the crash happened, because my ex-husband had an opportunity here. Okay, so I want to talk about the growth here and what I've learned. Now, I'm one of those people where I like to have motivational sentences, right, to keep me going. And so during this life in Singapore, there's two sentences that really motivate me, and I look at them from time to time. And one is, "This too shall pass." And it has to do with a lot of the challenges that happen both at work and also in personal life. And when I listen to this, it makes me, at least gives me some peace, right? To this, just work through it. And then, a year or 2 years later, I will look back, right? And said, "Oh yeah, this happened, and look what I've learned." The second is, I will, just watch me. And this is a real motivation sentence for me. And I'll tell you the reason why. So the reason why is, a lot of has happened during this time. As I mentioned, I had a kid, and then I got married. I got married, I had a kid, moved to Singapore. But during this time, I also got divorced, right? And then in a foreign country. And so that's why, and being a single parent, it's been challenging, right? So one of the things that I learned is, now I'm going to talk about some of the things in Singapore, is self-promotion, tactfully and tastefully. Self-promotion means, like, on LinkedIn, your social media is, if you do something that is beneficial, right? I think you should promote it. And I know some people don't feel comfortable doing it, but I think you should, because at least other people will understand, what are your strengths, and maybe some women are looking for mentors, right? And at least they know who to contact. So if I were you, I would try to self-promote. Don't be shy, but do it in a tasteful way. You should also self-promote internally as well at work. So if you had a win, right? Small win, big win, or big win, you should let your boss know, right? Because that's how they will evaluate you. The second thing is building a network. This is network outside of work. I am a very social person. I think you should make an effort to meet people who have the same mindset or in an industry that you're in. And it's a good learning opportunity. I have made good friends with people who have helped me in my career and also in my personal life as well through networking. The third thing, as you could see through my path, I got my PhD in 2002. When we moved here, I got my MBA, and just back in 2019, I got my master's in public health. Yes? Oh, okay, sorry. I believe in continuous learning. I'm one of those people where when I moved into health economics market access, I had absolutely no background in this, and we learned on the job. And of course, the company also provided some training, but there was always something missing because I'm one of those people who want a foundation in some of the basic subjects, right? For example, what is health economics, health financing? And so that's why I went and got my MPH back in 2019. I think there's always skills to learn to apply to your work and also to your personal life. So whether, for example, advocacy, negotiations. I just booked a class on value-based healthcare. So I think that don't stop, right? I know you guys are in, I think, a master's, or you guys are in PhD programs. Just don't stop from there. There's always things to learn. Okay. Fourth, and this is what I did for this project, and I do continuously, is to always self-reflect, right? Self-reflect. How are you doing? Is there something that happened that you could improve on? And as a parent, this is something that I've been doing more often, and I think it's very helpful. And also in your personal life, when you have relationships, it's also good to self-reflect, because there's always like conflict, and you guys want to grow together, right, with your partner, with your family. So I believe in self-reflection, and there's always something to improve about yourself. Fifth is, it's always easy to talk about problems. We could bitch and groan. It brings you down when you start thinking about, something's really bothering you. But really, don't let it bother you. Let's find the solution. And so, when you go to work, there's a problem. I would always add, well, here's a suggestion, right? In a personal life, right? This is bothering me. It's really bothering right now. Stop letting that affect your mind. Find a solution, right? So that's why I think number 5 is extremely important, because I like Zen. I like Zen, so I just like to resolve things. 6, this is extremely important, is to find meaning and purpose in what you do. And it took me a while, but in fact, just the other day, I found, you always find meaning. Like, for example, in the job that I'm in market access reimbursement, in Asia Pacific, there's a lot. Over here, it's about public health. Public health insurance, right? For example, we have Medicare for all in a way. So when we have a new technology, we have to approach the government and justify why the government needs to pay, right, on behalf of the people. Well, when you have a win there, you win for the entire nation, right? But in some cases, where in Australia, where healthcare is free, but when you're if you want a public hospital to adopt your technology, you still have to make the case because it's an expensive technology. So a win that happened there is that one of the surgeons, really wanted our product, right? And, I helped her, including the salesperson, and she managed to do it. But maybe it's only for 8 or 9 of your products, right? Instead of, 20,000. But it doesn't matter because the fact is, at least one patient will now have access to a really good treatment, to prevent blindness in my case, right, for glaucoma. So you got to find meaning in what you do. And it's not just in work. I have hobbies. I make wire wrap jewelry. I like cooking. I take cooking classes, right? And it's alone time for you. It's me time so that you can focus on yourself. And you'll notice that when you find something, a hobby that you enjoy, there's something in the mind that makes you feel at peace, right? So you balance that. Of course, work could be stressful, but then you find the meaning in your work, and then try on your weekends or alone time to find something besides resting, to find something that makes you happy, right? So, when I was thinking about this last 20 years, I was running, I jog every day, I was jogging, and I actually started crying because of all the challenges that have occurred in my life, divorce, dealing with a teenager. And in the end, like I said, things move on, right? You learn from the past, don't take it too hard on yourself. The point is that you self-reflect and you recognize, what I did wrong and what I could do better and do better, right? Or you recognize someone else might need help, right? And let them know. So these are just some of the tidbits that I wanted to share with you, and I'm looking forward to taking some questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Alice, for walking through this. And I really appreciate some of the whole life approach that you take, here talking about your interests as well, that leadership doesn't just stem from our work, but also from who we are, and being able to foster, a range of interests that aren't just work and rest. So I really liked that. One of the questions that I had, and that's also just come up immediately from Mara, was your point about emotional control. So she says, I think the point on controlling your emotions is crucial for growth. How did you learn to control your emotions? I mean, really, like, at what point did you go from reflecting on, man, I'm being such, in your words, right, such a bitch here, right, and just putting everything out there, being that person you wouldn't hire, to becoming someone you would hire?
Okay, so when I think I put on there self-reflection and find solutions, and I forgot to address this. When I said find solutions, I personally go to counseling, and because I recognized there was a problem with me and my daughter. So it's through counseling where they talk about, my daughter probably has emotional dysregulation, but I know when they talk through that I have it as well. I mean, when you start yelling at people, things like that, that it's not right, right? So I recognize there's a problem. I highly recommend going to a counselor if you need it. It's really helpful. It's really helpful. So, I mean, it's through, search on your own emotional dysregulation and how to solve that. But I go through a counselor.
And what brought you to doing that? I think there can be a lot of stigma around counseling. Maybe what was some of your own process of embracing that?
I think it's through having a teenager. And I don't know if anybody on this line has teens, or you have nieces or nephews who are teens, but I feel that the younger generation is completely different from how I grew up. And so people ask me, oh, Alice, you could do this and that, oh, you could do everything, is there anything you can't do? I will admit to you, I do not know how to be a parent, and that's why I need counseling. I need help. And so yeah, that's how when I recognize it. When you know that you break down through, you're crying from time to time, you know that you need some help. So that's when I go to counseling.
Actually, a topic that comes up quite a bit in our group is about leadership and motherhood. The intersection, the challenges, the role of organizations and organizational support at different times of motherhood. I wonder if I could ask you to reflect a little bit about your journey there. I mean, I know you're saying, right, that you, especially with teenagers, you were having issues, but what about like throughout that journey of motherhood?
Yeah, the places that I've worked for have been very accommodating for women. I remember back in New York, they even had dedicated rooms, right, for if you want to breast pump, right, to use the breast pump and things like that. And I just feel nowadays, yeah, the work is very accommodating. Your bosses should be thoughtful. And I think it's part of the culture, the work culture that one the work culture that you belong to. So I've never had a problem that way. And I've been lucky to, I like to work from home. And so I think most of my career, starting from the past 6 years, I've been working from home. So I could spend more time with my daughter, has been very helpful as well.
Maybe one thing to just to take out of that, you said that you think bosses should be supportive. And I think it's just important for us to reflect that, at different stages, we're all leaders or bosses or what have you. And so the ways that we would want to be treated within that space are things we need to consider within our own leadership journey. Alice, something that really struck me as well in your tale is you talked about taking on a job with no background in that specific space. And I think this is an area of interest. How did you get that? Like, what propelled you towards that job? How did you get it, without having that background?
Okay, yeah. So during my MBA, I did a 10-week internship at Johnson & Johnson Medical, which is the medical device sector here in Singapore. And during that, I was in strategic marketing. But during that time, they had a lunch and learn, and I learned about health economics, which I had no clue what that was. But what I learned through that is, to me, back then, it was like a marriage between, healthcare clinical outcomes and what I've been learning in MBA, which is, economics and finance. So I said, oh, this is cool. And so after that, that's what got my foot in the door at Johnson & Johnson. And I joined that team through a leadership program. So those of you who are undergoing an MBA or anything of that sort, if you are looking to join like a multinational company, you might want to see, do they offer programs for recent graduates? And you could enter that way without any background, because they know that the point is to train you. So that's what got that's how I started my career in health economics and market access.
We've got a couple of questions from our attendees. So Nicole asks, how do you integrate your identity as a professional with your identity as a mother or any of your other personal roles? She says, with a young child, she sometimes feels like she has to turn off her mom brain when she goes to work, which leads her to feel like she has to be two different people at two different times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, young children, the way you talk to them has to be different, right? But okay, I'll tell you something that I've noticed about myself. When I'm at work, I'm a happy person. I always have one kind of dimension, positive, happy, right? But when I come home, that could be that's all sorts. And you don't want to bring anything negative home, but things happen at home as well, right? So I do have two different personas. I think you should keep them separate, right? But when you're dealing with children, you're a mom, and you got to use different skill sets for that, right? But
Thank
what you
you.
don't want to do is, it's easy, as I said, to get emotional and upset and all that. You don't want to bring that to work, right? You don't want to bring what's happening at work, at home to work. You don't want to bring what's happening at work back home. So it's just better to just resolve things. Like I said, find the solution.
So that's interesting, Alice. One of the things that we've talked about throughout this series is around authentic leadership. So sort of maybe not having to necessarily have these completely separate things, but I think part of that is tied to some of the emotional control, right? Being able to show up and maybe tell someone, hey, I'm having a rough time, so like I might be a little bit more reactive. But like, this is where it's coming from. It's not you, it's everything that's going on. And that's still being able to recognize what you have going on at home, show up authentically, but still be within a controlled space and be able to lead effectively through that honest communication. Do you feel like that's true? Does that resonate for you?
Yeah, that does resonate.
Great, thank you. So we've got an anonymous question. Since you're not working in an academic space, did you find your PhD helpful in your current position? As someone who also doesn't plan to be involved in academia, they're on the fence about pursuing a PhD. Have you seen a growing desire for terminal degrees within the global health sector?
My PhD has been extremely helpful in what I'm doing now. The skills that you get in terms of being able to write research papers, to find secondary research, to compile all of that information to develop something, I think it's been extremely helpful, at least for me, in what I'm doing now. I'm sorry, the second question was terminal.
It was, have you seen a growing desire for terminal degrees? Like, do you think employers are looking for like PhD, for doctoral degrees?
Yes. You should look at what you want to do and look at the job descriptions. They will say on there, PhD preferred, MD preferred, right? Or MBA preferred, and see from there, what are they looking for? But yeah, getting a PhD is time commitment, right? It took me 5.5 years. But I feel that the skills were extremely helpful for me in what I'm doing now.
I think, Alice, too, that like doctoral degrees can be right for some people and right sometimes in some places. Right. Yeah. I know about I think about my own journey, and I was very resistant for a long time to getting a doctoral degree, and then an opportunity appeared and it just seemed like the right time within my time and space. But for many years I was like, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. I feel like I need to be done. And so you just never know what life is going to bring you.
Yes. Okay. So on this point, I don't think you're ever too old to go back to school, right? So do your work, and if you're like, oh, I really want to get my degree on something, right? Do it. Just do it, right? So look, I got my MBA. I already had a kid, got an MBA, and then got a MPH later on. You could do it. It's okay. You could do it. You might not have a life on the weekends, but you could do it.
Yeah, Alice, I think that really speaks to the note that you said earlier about being a lifelong learner, like whether it's for work, or taking cooking classes, right? Continuing to engage in learning and your self-growth.
Yeah. Now, if there's always like a little inkling that you really wanted to do this, I think all of you guys should just do it in your lifetime. Or else, look, by the time you're 50, you're gonna go like, dang, I should have done that, when I was younger. I should have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things, I'm sorry, like I really wanted to go to med school. I should have done it, right? I should have done it when I was in my 30s, but I could do it now, right? I said it's never too old, but then if you think about it, I'll be probably 60 when I'm out, so no.
Yeah, med school is one of those like maybe better done early. That's pretty funny. All right, we have a question from Yuri who says, when you move to another country or company, how did you manage and adjust to change? Did you feel imposter syndrome or anxiety in any way, like you didn't have the skills or the cultural experience in a given place? And how did you deal with that? I think this is a great
Okay,
question. Dealing
that's
with
a very,
change.
yeah, that's a very good question. And in fact, luckily we moved to Singapore. Singapore and Asia Pacific, all the large multinational companies put their headquarters here. So, in Singapore, people speak English. There are so many expats. Like I've met people from Australia, from Europe, all over here that it's actually an easy place to transition in from a Western country.
Mm.
Now, if you put me in, for example, Spain, I might have a different view, right? But look, I am Asian, right? And I could kind of speak Mandarin. So putting me here in Singapore was a easy transition. I've met other expats, Europeans, for example, same thing. They're okay being here, most of them.
Are there any changes, like organizational changes that maybe were difficult? So, yeah.
Yes. So, I think in terms of like human resources, right? The things that we could say or do might be quite different from the US. I think the US is probably more stricter. Yeah. But other than that, when you work for a multinational company, I think it should be okay because the US influence is spread around.
Although
But
not all of our attendees are US oriented, definitely we have
okay,
people from all
right.
over.
Now, hold on here. But yeah. Now I think about it. You still have to be culturally sensitive. For example, the way I would react or say things in the US would not be how I would react or say things to someone in Japan, right? And you really have to understand the culture, understand how they think, and try to, I guess, get your points across in a way that they would understand things.
I think that's
I
a
mean,
great,
some places are known to be direct, right?
yeah.
And other
Well,
being
it's a
direct is
great
not.
point about like you can have leadership, like one of those leadership skills is around cultural competency and being able to make sure you can communicate effectively and respectfully in different places. In your own work, I mean, you've done a lot of work across large regions, right? And I think, as you said, the cultures even within the Asia region vary really widely. How have you harnessed some of your own skills in terms of thinking about how to effectively work with people from very different cultures?
Yeah, emotional intelligence or EQ. Yeah, in MBA they teach you this. You actually have a course on this, on cultural sensitivity, and I think it's just one thing that, like all of this self-reflection, you also have to observe, how you interact with other people. So I wouldn't say it was that difficult because I am aware. I make sure, I recognize things are very different, how in Japan things work, right? Or in China, maybe, in Australia. So you just need to be aware. But you should read up. For those who have not traveled to a certain country, there are like guides, right, to teach you on the cultural, I guess, aspects of a particular country.
And maybe to your earlier point about forming allies, right? You might be able to find allies as well in different settings who can help you to navigate complicated spaces.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So we've got a question from Nicole. When you've had a new interest in your career that was different from your prior experience, what has helped you to pivot or to explore these new interests? That is, how do you talk about these new interests where you might not have a lot of skills?
I read up a lot. So for example, if I'm preparing for like I'm going to be a moderator, right, on a topic. It's not like I understand this topic fully. I read up, spend a lot of time trying to understand, so I at least have some kind of a basis, a knowledge that I could, moderate or ask questions about. So that's how I would do it. Or, like I said, I would, take a class or online course, right, to understand something. And
Okay,
in
so
fact,
building your knowledge base.
yes, I would build my knowledge. And in fact, your work also, they will pay for, kind of leadership skills or some type of program that you want to, enrichment classes that you might want to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting theme, Alice, that sort of being able to pivot into new fields or new spaces, this idea of lifelong learning. I think there's so much we can do where we can take maybe core skills of who we are in our leadership, build our knowledge base around certain things and talk about them and apply them. Because I know particularly for our audience, right, there are people who are concerned with pivots and changes and what it would look like if they went to a new field, or how you even get a job in a new organization, or a new type of field. So I think this is really really helpful conversation.
What I've seen other people do is they contact me on LinkedIn. For example, I might have people who want to understand what market access is, right? Market access. And so I will help them, right? So if you're interested in something that's totally different from what you're doing now, you should reach out to people on LinkedIn, you might not know them, but just say, I see your profile. I'm sure you're an expert on this. I'm thinking about a career change. I would love to learn a little bit more from you. Or, people in your alumni network would be extremely helpful. So, I mean, I think I've done it before too. Or, when you're going to move to a company, you might want to talk to people who are already there. Yeah.
Great suggestion around leveraging our different networks. Yeah, to get that kind of information. As you were, so interesting, you talked too about, people reach out to you on LinkedIn and you respond to them. I know that some people I will respond to in a heartbeat and some people I won't. Can you reflect too on like when someone reaches out, like what is a best practice, or like what do you respond to when someone is trying to network with you, right? Because you're busy, you've got a lot going on. So someone reaches out, like what do you respond to?
Oh, when they write an email, one of those LinkedIn emails, I guess,
Yeah.
and they actually put, who they are, what is their needs or their wants, right? And I mean, not like, hi, can I have a job?
Right.
That's not gonna work, right? It's like, oh, I like to learn a little bit more about what you do. Can you schedule something, something like that, then I'll do it. But if it's like, hi, I went to MBA with you. Can you send this resume to your company? No, I don't know you, right? People who make an effort to learn more, that one I would respond to.
Yeah, that's great. I think that is how we can leverage our networks. And maybe eventually you say, oh, you know what, I've got this position that I think you'd be really great for, right? And that kind of thing can emerge very naturally over time. Yeah. So in this tone and tenor around networks, I'm really curious, you said something about forming allies because you never know where you want to go. Do you have any good stories about like maybe where an unexpected ally has helped you? Whether it's been with like a tangible help or even just in terms of advice and guidance.
Yes. So this is when I was at J&J. I attended a private health insurance conference, and one of the speakers was really knowledgeable, so I went up to him and gave him my business card and we exchanged cards. And then he's obviously a knowledge leader, right, in his field, so then brought him into J&J as a to provide some advice, right? But so that's more work related, right? But that also happened when I joined another company as well. We also leveraged him for other efforts. But personally, he's been a great mentor to talk to him about different things in my life, including personal life. And in fact, I'm a co-president of the Berkeley Public Health Alumni Association, and we put up webinars as well. And so he helped secure a great speaker in India, when we talked about COVID responses. So I mean, that you see, that has to do with, it's work related, but then it became, a friend, a very close friend of mine, and also helped me in other areas that I enjoy and give back to society as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think that's I just love this point so much, because you really know, like, networks are relationships, right? And we can foster them, and you never know what will come of them, right? Which I think is true for all types of relationships. Let's see. I had a question. Oh, right. So one of the first things you said as you reflected on your early career is you talked about being someone that you wouldn't want to hire now. What do you think about, like, what are your skills and your strengths now that would make you want to hire you now?
Okay, it's a good one. Well, okay, number one, okay. Well, I think no matter what, you have to come well prepared, right? And you need to be able to provide examples of how you have contributed to previous corporations, and what makes you attractive to this company. You got to do your research. You need it. I mean, you need to prepare and market yourself well, right? And I think you have to ask good questions. I've been on interviews before, and there's great resources out there in thinking about what questions to ask. I would do that, and preparing ahead of time. So it's all about preparation, but also be authentic.
Okay, so it sounds like that bringing that component of lifelong learning and being prepared. What does authentic mean to you in the workspace?
Look, I think you could tell if someone's like, just saying things on the surface, but really you could provide a in-depth, response, and people could feel like, you're passionate about something, right? You're passionate about helping patients. You're passionate about educating people within your organization. They'll be able to hear it. The way you say it, what you say. Yeah.
I think that's true. I was recently reflecting about a grant that I was writing that, normally I feel like grants are often square pegs, round holes. Like, you're just trying to make something work, and like, it's never quite a good match. And I finally found this brilliant opportunity. It was a perfect match. And I felt like in the way I could write about it, like, everything came together, and I could feel it. And I just hope that everyone can feel it on the other side too, right? That like, that was the match, and you can just tell.
Yes. That kind of feeling.
Yeah. All right. I've got another question for you. I'm going to sort of bring it back to comments you made about motherhood. And you talked about the difference in your communication versus how young people communicate now, right? So that was something that you were sort of experiencing with your daughter. But how do you recommend young students in their career bridge the gap between different generations and different types of communication?
Oh, yeah. I feel that whether you're young or old, people should be respectful of each other. I find that this is just my observation. The younger the people are, they become this is for some reason lack of respect. But I feel just be respectful to everybody, right? And but even when you're older, you should also understand, how does the younger generation think as well, right? But I think no matter what, having respect is a bottom line. You got to have that, right? decency, the respect towards people.
I think too, there's an overlap between what you were saying around curiosity and this respect, right? Like that it can be respectful to show curiosity, right? For older generations to be interested, right? To try to ask questions and not just assume people should work as they've worked, right? But really
That's right.
to continue to be curious, and that we can do that in our leadership wherever we are on our
Yes.
journey.
Yes. So don't think like, oh, because I'm older, I'm wiser, that, you know everything. I think one of the best experiences, I mean, another experience that I love being on the Berkeley Public Health Alumni Association board is we have the whole generation on this board. And so I've learned, oh my gosh, it's so cool to learn from this younger generation about how they do things, which is pretty efficient and fun, right? And then you learn from even the older ones, right, about their experience. And it's just good to hear everybody's perspective and how the journeys that they've had. So just be open-minded. Don't think that you know everything. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, I'm just seeing all of the weavings between your different lessons, curiosity, being open-minded, like lifelong learning. I think these are all great leadership skills tied to self-reflection, right? Also being very aware of what we don't know. All right, Nicole has a question. Have you ever had a period in your professional life where you felt like a square peg in a round hole, like I said? And if so, what did you do to resolve that tension?
Oh, if you noticed in my career, about 8 years of it is in health economics and market access, right? The rest, I'm quite confident in what I did. But when I entered this, as I mentioned, we learn on the job. There's some things that I knew that I lacked. So that's, again, self-reflection. What skills or gaps do I lack? Then you need to understand, how do I get the skills? And yeah, sometimes I did have to change companies. Like you work at a regional level. I want to get my hands dirty, right? So then I need to move to like a country level so I could do things on the ground. So always see, like, what are you lacking, and how do I get it filled? Can the current company, can I get anything from my current company? Or, should I move to another company to get what I need?
I really want to lift up that second part of the response, right? Because I think so often we do just keep trying to reformulate ourselves to work within a given organization. But that realization that sometimes maybe that organization isn't for you, it's not working for you, it's not a win-win situation anymore, I think is so critical, right? Being able to assess when it's time to move on. You said early on that you had jumped around a little bit and there was a story behind it. But can you talk a little bit more about some of the decision making for making those types of changes, leaving certain organizations for other ones?
Yeah, well, some of it has to do with joining a startup, which was really fun. But of course, because it's a startup, it's risky and it didn't last. So it's not like I wanted to leave. It just didn't work well. And the other ones are, just family, got to move to another country. Yeah, the rest were more strategic. As I said, I knew I lacked something. I need to go somewhere else, right? Or, for example, the leadership. A lot of it has to do with the leadership in the current organization, and that the way they think is not how what you believe in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, find another company that you would be happy with, right? And that has worked well.
Yeah, I think it's great advice to be able to say, like, do I align with the leadership? Do I align with the organization? And I think you can either work to make change, or you can find a place that's a better fit for you.
Great. Some things we can't. Oh, and also, some things we can change and some things we just can't. So you got to pick your battles.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or else we're just always going to be fighting.
Right.
All right, Alice, as we reach the top of the hour, I just wanted to provide an opportunity for you to give any closing thoughts or remarks to our group before we close out for today.
Oh, just I think the number one thing is, life is exciting, right? And when you're younger, you always foresee your life would be in a certain way, and it just doesn't come out like that. But you know what? As I said, it's okay. This too shall pass. You can, you will, and just watch yourself. All right. So I hope you just just remember those two phrases. Motivate yourself and make yourself a better person. Then I think work and everything will be fine.
That's great. Alice, thank you so much for your time today, for your inspiration, motivation, and energy for our participants today. For everyone here, thank you so much for joining. Just another reminder, keep staying with us in Slack, where you get all of the conversations and the reminders, and we also send out a weekly email. Make sure you check out the recording for this will be posted probably today, if not tomorrow, and you can check out our past seminar speakers as well. So again, Alice, huge thanks. Good luck with your move tomorrow evening, and everyone, thank you and have a lovely day. Thanks again, Alice.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Anna. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.